Robert Plank Show, Episode 27, Productivity and Time Management, the secrets to following through and getting everything done. Welcome back to the Robert Plank Show. Whether you're a first-time, long-time listener, we talk here about how to work from home, create your own destiny, and make money using the internet. I'm Robert Plank, former computer programmer who went through this path of working for others, doing freelancing, was turned into making products, making membership sites, making courses, building a list, and now I have a more than full-time income coming from a less than part-time effort. And a lot of that comes down to basically being your own boss and motivating yourself instead of relying on having someone looking over your shoulder or relying on some kind of steady incremental paycheck that'll keep you just above poor and keep you just saving just enough money so you can retire the day after you turn 75. I don't know about you, but that's no fun. So we're going to talk today about how to do all these things that you might have heard of, like building a list on the internet, making a sales letter, selling products, making money, cultivating an opt-in email list, and basically going to that next logical step and figuring out what it is people want on the internet in whatever your niche you're in, whether that's WordPress plugins, guitar, organic gardening, what's being sold out there, and how you can kind of wedge yourself somewhere in there and be a breath of fresh air and sell that $10, $100, $100 a month, $1,000, $1,000 a month course on how to solve some of these problems. But it's always fun to check out the latest plugin, theme, implement some new course. And you know what we all do? All of us, including me, including you, we all do it. It's kind of scary, but we all do these things of buying this little $10 report, buying this little $5 report, hearing about this new way to make money, and what do we end up with after the end of a month? But we have 10 different things we started, 10 different balls in the air, and we have no focus. We're just putting out fires, and we really have either no money to show for it, or we know that our potential is much bigger, much greater than that. So I want to share with you how to follow through and get everything, and it comes down to 7 things. We're going to keep today's episode really short and sweet, so 7 things. Let me just list them off to you, then we'll unpack these. The first thing, proper motivation. Number 2, stability versus maintenance mode. Number 3 is to let your neuroses and unhappiness work for you. Kind of weird, but you'll understand. Number 4 is declutter. Number 5 is avoid putting the horse before the cart. And number 6, acting versus reacting. And finally, number 7, fear of completion and success. So here is the thing, is that especially on the internet, we have all these possibilities, all these choices, and it's a lot more fun for sure is to have an idea and register the domain name and register the trademark and get some graphics made and do all these things where we feel like, okay, I was able to just check off 20 things on my to-do list, but really you didn't do anything that was making you money. So the biggest tool for me is to just realize that I am going to sabotage myself if I'm left to my own devices. And it sounds weird, but I don't trust myself to actually finish things. So I kind of, in a way, lower my expectations. And if I know I'm going to make a course about how to run webinars, well, I'm going to structure things so that I make the most simplest version 1.0 I can, and I get that finished. And finished can just mean up to that next milestone and just out to the market, and then I can add on to it from there. But when you're stuck and you're trying to, get out of that rut and trying to get things done and make money, well, finishing needs to be more fun and more important to you than starting. And that comes down to you need to have better habits and a better lifestyle, a better support system. But just think about that for a second. What if you actually finished today, this week, this month, as opposed to starting? Because, it's easy to just let things get carried away. It's easy to start up this project, start up this report, start up this video, and have all these unfinished things. And you know what happens is your subconscious just gets overloaded, overwhelmed, dragged down, and that's no fun for anybody. We need to just clear out things and finish them, and we'll get to that in a few more of these steps here. So the next thing I want to share with you is the idea of stability versus maintenance mode. And what do I mean by that? I mean that, well, there are basically 2 extremes when it comes to the internet marketing, especially information marketing. When I'm talking about making reports, making products, making membership sites, the two extremes are, well, one extreme is if I go project, 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 and I do get a lot of stuff finished. So early on in my internet career, I was really good at making $2,000 at a time, right? I'd have an idea, make a sales letter, make all these things, put them all together, and then, in about 24 hours, it would start making money. And then what would happen is it would make about $1,000 during the day and about $1,000 overnight, and then sales would dry up. So what did I have to do? Start from scratch all over again and start a new project. And so that was good at first until, well, you can probably guess what happened. Got burned out, ran out of ideas, and the money kind of dried up for a while. But that was a good stepping stone towards bigger and better things. So I do think that there are two mindsets you have to go through, two phases, if you will. The first phase is for sure putting things out there, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and then you can go back and redo it. I mean, Lance and I, my business partner, we have done things like updated our membership cube course, updated our webinar course, updated our product creation course, and there are lots of other courses where we put it out the first time and either just didn't update it because it was, not a very good seller, or re-promoted that old thing without making a new one just because it was an okay seller. So what we want to do is we want to basically be smart and see what's working and, and stay relevant and not get left behind. But we see people that get really comfortable, get really complacent. So they'll make one book, one video course, and it'll do really, really well. And then what will they do? Well, they won't make anything new for 5 years until they have to, until they run out of money. They'll do a huge launch, maybe go up and do a big relaunch, get all these affiliates, but every time they do it, they'll have diminishing returns, and it'll become less and less and less and less and less until, well, now they really have to change things because they have no choice. Think about this. Car companies, Honda, Hyundai, Ford, do they have to come out with a new car? Does Ford have to come out with a new Mustang every single year? Well, no, they don't have to, but they do because they want to stay relevant. Does Apple have to come out with a new iPhone, iPad every single year? No, but they always find some way to be new and exciting because otherwise someone else is going to swoop in there and take their place because of capitalism, free market, and all that stuff. Something else to think about before we move on is what if let's just say you had some kind of project to complete. And let's say it took you 1 month to complete it, okay? So you have 3 of these. So you have a project that's going to take a month, another that's going to take a month, another one's going to take another month, and there's basically 2 different extremes you could go through. Either you could knock out one and make money from that, and make money a month from now, then make more money in 2 months, then make more money in 3 months, or you could do what people always fall into and doing things in parallel, which is really bad. Multitasking is really bad. And what they end up doing is, they start on one project, then they start on project number 2, then they start on project number 3, and next thing you know, it takes 3 months to even get anywhere. That is, if things even get finished, because they have to keep switching back and forth, and it might even take longer than 3 months, but we don't want that. We want to do small stepping stones, don't necessarily trust ourselves, and assume that something is going to distract us in the next 2 seconds, so we need to get that done and completed and at least somewhat sellable, somewhat finished by the end of the week, end of the month, whenever you think you're going to lose focus. Now here's kind of a weird, controversial one, but I'm happy to share it with you, is to let your neuroses or your unhappiness work for you. Here's what I mean, is that something drove you to start and run and grow your own online business. And something gave you that drive. Now, whether that is, you got frustrated with, the way your career was going, you got unhappy with some kind of a job, or you ended up in a lifestyle where you had to come up with that money, or something happened. But, when we get unhappy, it kind of forces us to take action. And I'm not saying you should live a life of always being grumpy, but what I am saying is that so many people have a cushy life, and it hurts them. They have a cushy life of, say, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month that comes in from military pay, retirement, or a spouse, or something else that happens, and they don't really have any reason, any motivation to survive. They just kind of, live in this sad area of having some money but not really being driven or motivated to come up with more money. So what we want is something at the end of the rainbow, some kind of reward, and we need to figure out, if I have $2,000 coming in, that's only going to afford me a certain lifestyle. But if I'm more not necessarily greedy, but hungry, and I want more of a life for myself. Now, if that means pay off my house earlier, retire, travel, pay off someone else's house, pay off someone else's college education, you need to have some kind of a goal. We call this a reason why, that once you have X amount of dollars, you'll get X result. Not necessarily a bigger and bigger and bigger bank account, but if you had a certain amount of money, what could you do with that, especially if it's emotionally tied to change your life, someone else's life. You really wanted to get to that certain milestone, knowing that that's not the end of the game. That's just one more milestone. You want to get X dollars in Y amount of weeks, and then that's the next milestone you can get to in your life. For the purposes of clearing things out. That's number 4, declutter. So far, the secrets are productivity, time management, following through, getting everything done. Number 1, proper motivation. Number 2, stability versus maintenance mode. Number 3, let your neuroses or unhappiness work for you. And number 4, declutter. Once again, going counterintuitive to what's fun or what you hear from a lot of so-called productivity coaches and mindset people. The sad thing is that most time management and productivity systems are centered around studying about different things about productivity and adding to the problem and creating a complicated system of quadrants or columns and to-do lists and priorities. And at the end of the day, you have to realize that in a typical 24-hour period, you really only do 15 minutes, maybe an hour worth of stuff. And we all think, oh no, but I put in 10-hour days. I put in 12-hour days. Well, do you really? You check email, you check Twitter, you check Facebook, you get distracted, you switch back and forth between all these things. And if you think about out of all the tasks you do, and you subtract all the distractions, you subtract all the maintenance, all the putting out fires, and you look at what actually made you money today, it's probably only a few minutes or maybe an hour or two if you're lucky of actual stuff. So we have a book called 4 Daily Tasks, which you can get at 4dailytasks.com. That's FOURDAILYTASKS.com. 4dailytasks.com. And this comes down to every day, just do 4 things. And if you have to do more than 4 things, you have 2 choices. Either those activities can all be bunched together, because I know people who say, well, I'm going to do 30 things. I'm going to post to Twitter, post to Facebook, update my blog. And I'm thinking, but if you could lump that all into, say, like a 40-minute or a 20-minute session, and that could just be one simple task, and it's a tangible task where I can literally see, was that done? So not make 10% of my book. No, it's finish chapter 1 of your book. Or it's not, work on sales letter. It's, is the payment button on the sales letter? Is that headline on the sales letter? Just 4 daily tasks. And don't add to this, please. Don't complicate it, because, I've presented this at enough events, enough seminars where I say, just do 4 things, just do 4 things, just do 4 things. And people say, well, for me, 3 things is better. Well, for me, 5 things is better. Or, I like to combine this with Brian Tracy's this and that. And I like to eat a frog a day. And I like to, out of the 4 things, just do the first thing in the morning. Don't make it so dang complicated. Just do 4 things. That's it. And the way it works out for me and Lance is it's about 3 tasks that take about 40 minutes, and one that takes about 10 minutes, okay? Every single day, and that might consist of, putting together a webinar presentation, recording a podcast, blog post, sales letter, whatever it is, 4 daily tasks. Please don't make it more complicated than it has to be, and just try it, and don't do to-do list stuff. Just have the 4 most important things. If you think of more than 4 things, maybe some tasks can be bunched together, or they just aren't as important as the 4 things that need to be done today. And in this book, there's also lots of stuff we don't have time to get into, such as using a Google Calendar to schedule basically appointments with yourself to make sure things get done, having an accountability partner to make sure that your actions are tied to emotional, either congratulations or remorse, adding a countdown timer to give your brain that false sense of urgency, using a program called Camtasia to record yourself doing things to make sure that it simulates someone looking over your shoulder, all these things. But you'll get a lot more clarity and focus and action and drive and motivation, and you'll feel better in general if you declutter, if you get rid of those loose ends that are always just dragging you down, and get things closed and out of the way and finished. So speaking of that, speaking of clearing out the noise, people do this thing called putting the horse before the cart, which means I say, you know what you should do is you should make a print book on how to play the guitar. And they say, fantastic. I'm going to make 3 books. I'm going to do a pitch webinar. I'm going to make a CD. I'm going to make a DVD. I'm going to make a $10 a month course. And then what happens is it's good to get excited. Don't get me wrong. But they mind map and overplan and they do all these things. And then they get to the point where they start weeding out people who don't go in line with their view. Here's what I mean. Is I say, just do this one simple thing, and they say, I'm going to do all this crazy stuff, and I say, well, don't get too crazy, and they say, I'm no longer going to listen to you. Now I'm going to go to this message board of people who don't make money, and I'm going to say this is a good idea. And everyone says, of course it's a good idea. You know what you should do? You should make 10 books. You should make 5 DVDs, and everyone gets so excited about air, about nothing, and then after a while you get burned out. And even worse is that your imagination plays tricks on you, and you go down that path, that journey, and you feel almost as if you've done these things, right? You think, well, imagine having all these DVDs done, imagine having this book done, making all these sales, and it's great in your dream world, but in the real world, well, you didn't make money, and you feel as if you put in all this work, and you're tired, and you end up falling into this pattern of resenting taking any kind of action because it's more fun to play around in the dream world. Now, acting versus reacting. Have you heard of the phrase, if your ship hasn't come in, don't wait for it, swim out to it? Well, we want to be careful and strategic and basically think some of our moves ahead. And what I mean by that is, well, if you know you're going to have this huge expense coming up, kid going to college, huge medical bill, whatever it is, don't wait till the last minute. Squash these things before they become real problems. If you're having trouble dealing with a competitor or some kind of technical issue, how to record a video, well then just figure out a way through it or around it, hire someone else to handle your videos, or if you feel like you need to do postcard marketing, well then deal with that before you have to start putting out those fires. If you have a huge tax bill coming soon, for example, well then how about a few months ahead of time, you run a big promotion and then set that money aside to pay for your taxes or whatever big expense is coming up. But so many problems and so many people could avoid everything slamming to a screeching halt just by reacting instead of acting. And finally, to wrap this all up, fear of completion, fear of success. People always think that the end is closer than it actually is. Here's what I mean. We're going on along these lines of making a product. And so many times I'll say, here's what your niche is, and here's what people want to know, and based on your skills, here's what you can create. And they think that, well, as soon as I hit the save button after typing in my 20-page report, I'm done. And then that's it. That's all I have to do, and all the money will roll in. And then it becomes harder and harder to reach that finish line because they don't want things to be over. And it's scary to go over into that next phase of marketing. Okay, so we want to think in terms of milestones and consistent progress, because you're going to make that book on how to flip real estate, how to play the guitar, and you know what? First, you get in that stage of making a product. That's the quick stage. Just to be a day or 2, maybe 3 days. That's it. And then you go out and market it, which is scary because, well, people might not like it. People might refund. People might not buy. And it's up to you to have that thick skin and put yourself out there and adjust and see what it is you can do that works and what it is that didn't work that you don't repeat. But you have to be a marketer. And you know what? People get so afraid and so stressed out, but the rewards are huge. To be able to generate money out of thin air that you didn't have to work for, that you didn't have to wait for a paycheck for, is awesome. And I want you to go right now to makeaproduct.com and see how easy it can be to dictate out a book, dictate out your whole marketing message, create info products, generate all your emails, all that good stuff at makeaproduct.com. And you know what else? Since we're loading you up with URLs right now, a great place to get your head on straight and to get focused and to get that stick-to-itiveness and get it done is over at timemanagementoncrack.com. And finally, go to robertplankshow.com. That's ROBERTPLANKSHOW to like this page. Let us know what you thought of today's episode, this new compressed format. That has been Robert Plank Show, episode 27. Productivity and time management, the secrets to following through and getting everything done. My name is Robert Plank. Thanks for listening. Have a great day, and thanks a bunch.